we're talking about defensive lines going against attacks and attacks going against defensive lines. I think it's going to be won and lost in this middle third because of how possibly transitional this game could be.
We are getting set for the 2024 NWSL Championship, Orlando Pride against Washington Spirit, and we're digging deep into the tactical breakdowns. Sandra, you're looking at the midfield because this is a battle. Take us through Orlando against Washington's midfield. What are we watching for?
A battle for sure, like you mentioned. And I got to be frank, it feels a little bit like Washington Spirit's middle third is going to have the game of their lives, which is a little bit intense considering it's full of a lot of rookies and you've been asking that of them for 2 knockout games at this point. And now you're going to ask them to do it again in arguably the biggest game of their lives. So yes, go out there and have one, but it's going to be tough because we've already mentioned a couple of these players already, and that's how important they are to Orlando's makeup and their schemes. The fact that we're shouting out Angelina, Haley McCutcheon, hey, Adriana, we haven't even really had a chance to talk about enough. Ali Watt as well. These are players who interchange so much and become either part of a front six or a defensive back line and really get out there and make things happen. And some of these players have become a little bit of X factor type of athletes for Orlando Pride. I mean, Haley McCutcheon is for sure, for me, going to be the player to watch. She was one of the unsung heroes or underrated players that I was keeping an eye on during these earlier knockout rounds because, yes, there's going to be a lot of emphasis on Barbara Banda. There's going to be a ton of attention, respectfully, on Marta. And McCutcheon can sometimes be one of those players in that kind of D-midi role that does her job, so you don't really maybe talk about her. But for some reason, when she got into these knockout rounds, now she is getting the goal scoring started for Orlando Pride. So she is going to be a huge player for me to keep an eye on in the final. And that's alongside Angelina. The chemistry that this duo has built over the course of the regular season is so tangible. You can feel it and see it at the same time on the pitch. They're both equally good at really finding that sort of long range or even kind of mid-range pass, that kind of slingshot type of pass that we see for Banda and then possibly Marta. They're so integral to the attack. And then when we're looking at things defensively, it's not so much that they're such a defensive team, Orlando Pride. I wouldn't even label them as such, even though they have great defensive stats. It's just how calculated they are in their organization for me. And again, that's in credit to their midfield. So I think it's when we're rating things, we're talking about defensive lines going against attacks and attacks going against defensive lines. I think it's going to be won and lost in this middle third because of how possibly transitional this game could be. If we're all feeling like it's going to be high scoring, it's going to absolutely be won and lost in the middle.
I like that shout a lot because of the midfield. I think there's a lot of pressure on Washington's young players in the midfield. Hal Hirschfeld defensively for Washington, she does a good job of getting stuck in, being a bit of a bruiser. I think that could throw off someone like a Banda, right? If you body her up a little, there's going to be physicality coming from Hal Hirschfeld, but I'm most nervous of her with the ball. She got stripped a couple times against Gotham, and Esther just did not punish Hirschfeld or Washington enough. And you cannot give those chances to Banda or to Marta. They're going to punish you. They are going to punish you every single time.
Yeah, I think
it's
go ahead,
Sandra.
Oh, thank you. I think in terms of personnel, when I was mentioning out of the break, like just on paper, who's available, I think when you're looking at Orlando, the fact that the champagne problems have already kind of shown themselves for the Pride. Who is Seb Hines going to start in that kind of middle four that we see sometimes for Orlando? Is he going to go with Adriana like he did in the semi? Is Summer Gates up to speed? It looks like she got a little cramping there in the quarter. Like, is she going to be the one that you want to start and help set the tempo? And you have all these options when you go down their bench, who you can rotate in or who you can rotate out. And for the Spirit, yes, you have lots of talented players, but they're missing a couple of significant players. And again, this is a lot. This is a huge responsibility that you keep asking of your rookie midfielders. So mentioned turnovers very, very high up in the beginning of this episode, and it could come down to that for me.
Yeah, it's tough just looking at their last lineup. Hirschfeld, Brown.
Yeah, Steinbrook. Yeah, it's
Steinbrook. That is a young midfield. McCutcheon's a bruiser.
They're all rookies.
I don't know if you guys remember. McCutcheon is a bruiser. She's solid. Marta does not care. Banda will run you over.
Yep.
This is a tough, quick, very physical Orlando Pride midfield that rotates a lot, that can hit you hard, and a lot more experience. I mean, first sub off the bench for Orlando's midfield could be Yates. It could be Morgan Gautrat. That's a lot of years in the NWSL, a lot of years of players that have won a lot in the NWSL against a rookie class that's going to be difficult. But when you're a rookie, you got nothing to lose. Right. There's beauty in not having that pressure because you just simply don't know.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see who really comes out on top. I mean, with the 3 in the middle with Spirit against Orlando's typical 2, they could override numbers. They could try to combine a lot of triangles to break through that press between McCutcheon and Angelina, but they have to move the ball quickly. But again, they haven't really felt a full Banda, full Marta, Ali Watt. It's going to be tough for the Spirit midfield.
It's going to be so fun to watch this. There are a couple different players that could rotate in and around. Let's start with Washington. We're putting on our managerial caps now, friends. For Washington, last week, they in the semifinal, they rotated in and had Lacey Santos starting in the midfield instead of someone like a Courtney Brown coming off the bench. If you are Jonathan Giraldez, Darian, I'm going to start with you. Are you making any changes to the Washington semifinal starting lineup? Who are you looking at to potentially be a change or rotation, if any, changes from the semifinal to the final for Washington?
I'm not changing anything. Lacey Santos needs to be in there. She offers so much more to this team. Also a bruiser. Mm-hmm. She's also a bruiser, I think. Yeah, and we saw a lot of combination play between her and Kawasi, her sending balls through to Rodman when Rodman was on the right side. She likes to get into the 18. She's always hungry to score, to be in for those cutback balls. We know Spirit's worked a lot on getting balls end line, sending crosses in. I got to do a coach's call with Jonathan Giraldez, and something he was key on is decision-making and commitment to get into the box. We take low percentage shots a lot of the time because we have a young team, and we don't get near post, far post, and the 6. We have to commit to get to those if our game plan is to get balls wide, isolate our forwards, and get them to have service into the box. So I think with Lacey Santos, she brings that already because she is so eager to score and she's going to fuel that energy. You have to have her on the pitch.
Yeah.
Sandra, what about you?
Listen, Lacey Santos, probably, we're talking about the X factors. For me, that's probably going to be that for the Spirit, for sure, alongside maybe Kawasi as well. You have to start her. I mean, she got the start in the semifinal, but Giraldez in the post-game, access conference, whatever, reference to Santos, and he said that it took a little while for her to get into the game. She's had to build her minutes back up in a very crucial window of time for the Spirit. So I think when you can maybe coach a player through and as an athlete, maybe you compartmentalize. It's just like, this is the game. This is the game where I just have to have one incredible performance. Injuries, small, lingering, nagging bruises, muscle strains, whatever, be damned. This is the game that I'm going to go all out and we will recover afterwards. For Santos, it's absolutely going to be that type of player for the Spirit. But again, I think it's also a little bit of, in this coaching matchup, that's the first challenge for me if I'm the head coach. You're already playing the game as the coach, because you have to put together the formation or the tactical plan, what you think is going to work best for your team in the biggest game of the year. And then you have to get your players to buy in and execute. So I am curious if there are going to be some bold changes from either coach to start this final. And if there's not, I do think it might be a little cagey in maybe the first 15.
There will be changes ultimately, though, right? Like in the 11 that started, not going to play the entirety of the game. When you look at Washington, they have some players that can come in off the bench and change things. Maybe not at the same quality of depth as Orlando, but Washington still has those players, right? Even if Santos doesn't start, her coming in off the bench is such a difference maker. But I think Santos will start. I think we'll see the same 11 for Jonah Heraldez as we did in the semifinal for Washington against Gotham. But off the bench, McKenna Morris in the midfield. She was key in their set pieces. That's ultimately how they got the equalizing goal against Gotham, was Morris being involved in the play attacking wise. So she adds, as a rookie, adds a lot of that depth. I also think Gabby Carl coming in off the bench could provide in the back line for Washington, because if we think it's going to be the same lineup, that would be Paige Mateo, Tara McKeown, Esme Morgan, and Casey Kruger across the back line. They're going to be tired, guys. They're going to be tired by the 60-minute mark, right? 70-minute mark. And that's where I think we could see game changers. Are there game changers, Darian, that maybe we're sleeping on for Washington Spirit that will elevate coming off the bench?
Brittany Ratcliffe. When we had Laura Harvey on, she coached her when she played for Utah, when Laura was the coach there, and I played with her at Kansas City. And talk about a ball of energizer. Like, she is an energizer bunny, whether she starts the match or she comes off of the bench. I think she can cause a lot of problems. Say it's 0-0 or something, which I don't think it's going to be, or 2-2 going into the end of the match. Ratcliffe is a player you want on the field. Maybe it's subbing a midfielder out and you go all gas, no breaks. We're going into the attack. We're transitioning. That's the player that I'm looking at to the bench and the first pick for me, because she's a proven goal scorer. She's been to finals before. She's a veteran. She's very smart, and she's eager to get into the 18 and work some magic. So I think she's a player that we've kind of slept on all season, because when players have been injured, she's stepped up and scored goals. She's come off the bench and scored goals and won games for the Spirit. So yeah, that's definitely the player I would key in on that could be key.
Great shout for Brittany Ratcliffe because of her energy. And if it's a transition game and if it goes into extra time, you want that spark, especially towards the end of the match off the bench. Let's switch, put on our Seb Hines Orlando managerial hat. We saw some changes in the semifinal due to Summer Yates dealing with a bit of a knock. She did not start. It was Allie Watt instead. We did get to see Summer Yates come on towards the end of that game, which is good news for Orlando fans. But Sandra, when you think about the starting 11 for Orlando in the semi against Kansas City as they head towards this final, will there be any changes in the starting lineup for the Pride?
For the starting lineup, possibly Summer Yates. I think it depends. I think she's that good. I think she's that good of a player who has kind of forced that sort of good problem on the coaching staff in terms of how they're going to rotate in. But again, it really just depends on her availability, how she felt coming out of the semi. So if she's given the green light, I do think there's a possibility she can get that start. I think Sandra, it's more about
Sandra. If Summer Yates is available for, say, 60 minutes, 70 minutes, not a full 90, do you start her?
Yes, because I want all gas, no breaks. And I think Summer Yates is the type of player that can do that in a very stealthy kind of way. I love the way over the season she has just sort of put defenders to sleep by kind of just finding spaces and pockets to just kind of drift in. And I'm not saying that this won't be the game that she's unable to do that, but she's capable of it. And with so much attention on maybe some others like Martha or Banda, she'll have that ability to do that. So it all depends on if she's able to go. Otherwise, there's folks like Julie Doyle, who's able to come off the bench and provide a bit of an attacking spark. I'm absolutely looking at Julie Doyle to maybe get some time in this game as a game changer, or maybe even the veterans. I think you bring in a Carson Pickett or a Morgan Gautrat. If you have that lead and you need to shut things down, you absolutely bring in your veterans to do that.
Game changers for you, Darian, for Orlando?
Sandra kind of took mine. I think Julie Doyle is one of those players that can come in. She likes to be on the ball. She loves to have a lot of touches. She can attract defenders. She has decent service into the 18. I think Celia Jimenez is a big one. She has a lot of experience in this league. If you're needing somebody to come in, and we saw this in the last match, kind of ride the game out and be really smart, calm on the ball, kill a lot of time. She's a master of the dark arts in soccer, which is very annoying to play against, but great when she's on your team.
Wait, what does that mean? Master of the dark arts in soccer?
She knows how to waste time. She knows. Think of Emily Sonnet, where she knows how to bait you to maybe kicking the ball out because you think you're going to get hit, or she'll throw the ball into the middle of the pitch and carry it out and be like, "Oh no, sorry, I thought it was over here." And it wastes 30 seconds of time. Or they sit and dance on the ball and do a bunch of tricks, and it's hella irritating to play against. Celia does that very, very well, even in training. It's annoying when she's not on your team. So I think that's a player, if you're trying to ride the game out, she could come in and do that for you.
I love this. Either way, it's going to be a battle. Players off the bench that can change things. If Summer Yates does get that start, Allie Watt, she will make such a difference. There is depth, there is talent, there is excitement all over the place for Orlando and Washington.